Hey, what's up, everyone? We are live. Welcome to Choose to Create. Just double check to make sure we are live. Yes, we are. We are live. I'm actually going to go live on here as well. Where's the stand for?
A little more headroom.
Oh, there it is, right here. All right, so we are live. Welcome to the show. We're about to get this thing started. Me and Ari is here. Just give us 1 second. We go live on Instagram as well. Yep.
Technical difficulties.
All right, awesome. Looking good. Smelling good. Just like you should. All right, welcome to Choose to Create. We do this every third Wednesday of the month. Thank you guys for locking in with us. Had a couple of technical difficulties. Had to switch out laptops, but appreciate you guys joining the show today. Today's show, we're going to be talking about production gear, some cameras. So this is going to be great for anybody that's looking to start producing some videos like today or tonight or tomorrow. So appreciate you guys joining the chat right now, and we're gonna get this thing going. Okay. All right. That's what it is. Welcome, y'all. Welcome to Choose to Create. Choose to Create Live. We are officially live. Switched up the format a little bit, but we keep this thing moving.
Let's do this.
You dig what I'm saying? So, welcome to Choose to Create Live. I am RJ Deed from Content Factory. We are a production house down here in Hollywood, Florida. Thank you so much for joining the call today. At least joining the video today. We specialize in basically helping local businesses, event coverage, podcasting, doing shows like this, live streaming. We help businesses be able to create the content that they need to be able to post on their social media or newsletters and things like that. Outside of that, we do this called Choose to Create, where we help other video production companies, freelancers, photographers, videographers, master their craft, get into video, get jobs, get paid doing video, all those type of things. That's what we focus on here. So if you think about anything that we're doing here, it's always like a two-pronged thing. We have the agency, which is Content Factory, and then we have the academy, which is Choose to Create, where we help, people get started.
Right.
So on today's show, I have my good brother here, Ari.
What's going on?
From Extreme Visuals, and go ahead and give them a brief introduction.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So my company is a is a video production company, and we specialize in events, extreme action sports, corporate companies, brands, lifestyle brands as well, and just looking to expand the team in the future, and just collaborate as much as possible with other creatives like yourself and learn and grow. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. Appreciate you being on Choose to Create. So I always like to look at the creative entrepreneurs or the creative professionals, just entrepreneurship in general, from what makes up an entrepreneur. And in my journey from being an entrepreneur, I've been doing this now about 15 years. My first 6 years was more on the freelancing side, just going out there freelancing, working with a lot of different production companies. I still even do some freelance gigs every now and then here, And then in 2017, went into a full-time just entrepreneurship. And from that experience, I always look at being an entrepreneur as three main areas that I had to master, right? The very first thing was the production, right? Mastering the gear, mastering just how to take photography, how to direct, all of those things, everything that's involved with production. I feel was the first step of mastery, and then the second step was operations. So that's um, SOPs, that's management of teams, that's managing client expectations. That's everything that goes into operating and making sure that we're able to stay consistent, able to manage a whole entire production team and be able to produce quality every time we go out and shoot,
Right.
regardless of who's there or who's not, right? And then one of the main thing that I feel that we had to really focus on, or as an entrepreneur, everybody has to focus on, is business development. Because you could be the best photographer, you could be the best videographer out there, but if you don't have clients and new leads coming in, you're gonna be quickly one of those starving artists, right?
Right.
So business development is everything with contracts, negotiations, lead generation, marketing,
Right.
creating your website, brand positioning, all of those different things. Brand development is not business development is not just your logo, for instance, right? You got Choose to Create here. That's not
there's more to it. It gets
It's a lot more to it. So today we're going to be focusing on the production side of things, and kind of like our journey in production, how we got into filmmaking, how we got into production, the type of gear and equipment that we used when we first came in the game, some of the things that we learned in the process as far as like new gear that we added to our production bag, camera bag, right? And just some tips on if somebody was just starting out, and only had like $2,000 and wanted to get into the game, like where to go with that. So I'm gonna start this off asking you a few questions. So for you, when did your creative journey start?
When did my creative journey start? Man, I mean, I was a kid. We can go back to when I was a 10-year-old kid making videos with my friends and family. I just found a camera, like a digital, a tape. It was a VHS tape, actually, or not a VHS, but it was a tape, DV tape. And I just started making videos with my friends and family, like little movies. I just grew up making movies that my family loved, and they were like, "You should become a director one day." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I don't know what that means, but I'll be a famous Hollywood director." That's what I wanted to do. And so I just kept making movies and videos with friends and family. Can't see it on YouTube because it's all in private, but there, if you know me well enough, like I'll show you some stuff. But it's it started when I was a kid. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. We've been working now for like 4 years. I didn't know you started that early.
Yeah, I was a kid.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's awesome, man, to be able to like get your hands on the camera that quick and kind of just start being creative that early is super amazing, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got lucky because the stuff that I made, people thought was funny, and they thought it was entertaining. Like if I had made stuff and like I never showed it to anybody, or I just made like home movies and I just kind of kept it to myself, I probably wouldn't be doing what I am doing today, because the reason why I continued making videos was because people would laugh at them, and they were like, "Wow, this is so funny, this is so good, like how'd you do that," or whatever, because thinking differently, and that what sparked me to like continue just pursuing it, continue making videos. It was just like fueling the fire in a good way, of course. I got lucky that my family was supportive, I guess.
Okay,
for sure.
And what kind of camera was that? Do you remember the brand?
So
what type of camera it was?
So it was like a DV. It was like a DV tape. So we had to put a tape inside of the camera, the digital. It wasn't digital. Well, no, it wasn't a digital camera. It was just tape.
Analog, yeah.
Yeah, it was tape.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely throwback. So, all right. So you started as a kid doing these home film videos on a VH tape camcorder. What was the next step? Did you go into did you start doing that in high school, or did you go into college and start doing it? Like, what was your first official like camera that you bought? What brand? Like,
so the first, the very first camera that I ever had was like it was a digital camera that my uncle gave me for my birthday. When everyone realized that, oh, you know, he's really loving it. Like, let's get him a camera. So they got me a camera that could only record like 30 seconds at a time. So every take was like 30 seconds, and the movies sometimes were 30 seconds. And I think it was like a Casio brand or something like that. It was like really thin. It was really small. And yeah, I started making little movies with that. And yeah, I mean, I went into high school, you know, freshman year, starting off doing TV production, because, like I said, from when I was a kid till now, I've been, you know, still doing video. But yeah, I went into high school, freshman, sophomore, every year, like from freshman year to senior year, I did video production. I did TV production. That's where I learned how to use Adobe. Like, I learned how to use Adobe when I was like 16. You know, you would think that I'm not gonna lie, like I should be a better editor, but you know, it's not my forte. But yeah, I learned how to use Premiere at 16, for sure.
See, that's why I love doing Choose to Create. Love doing these interviews, because like I hang out with this guy all the time, and I never knew that you actually started as a kid, then was creating videos.
Yeah.
So you was ahead of the curve with 30-second videos.
Yeah,
'Cause that's the thing right now.
that's the thing,
right?
exactly. Yeah, that's
and
true.
You was making 30-second reels.
I was 30-second making reels back then when I was 15. Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, so dope. So and you said you had a Casio camera.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the brand. I mean, eventually I ended up getting, like, before I went to high school, I ended up getting like a Sony camcorder. So that was like the first official one that I bought myself, was a Sony camcorder.
You remember what brand?
Sony.
Sony. Do you remember the name?
The model?
Yeah, the model.
HDV like 400 or something like that.
HDV 400.
Yeah,
okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's nice. I know back in the days, Panasonic was really big back then. Sony and Panasonic was like the two big brands that was really dominating the game.
It's funny because now I'm back on Sony.
Yeah.
That was like the first Sony, and I never got another Sony for like until now.
Okay. See.
So full circle.
Full circle. That's what's up. So all right. So you graduated high school, and you was using that Sony camera, the camcorder in high school to record?
In high school, I used the Sony camera.
Okay.
Throughout all high school, I used the Sony camera. Then I, funny enough, I went to college, and I wasn't really using that camera anymore. It was more like for like family videos and stuff. And actually, my ex-girlfriend at the time bought me my first DSLR.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's a story for another time, but
yeah.
She bought me my first DSLR. So
that's what's up.
It was a T3i.
Canon.
Yeah, Canon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Canon Rebel. Okay, that's what's up. So I started with Canon Rebel. Well, I wish I had as much experience as you in filmmaking. I didn't know you was filming from all the way back then, but I got my first camera, like, I think that was in college for sure.
Oh, okay.
Like right before college.
Nice.
And it was a Canon Rebel XS.
Could it take videos?
It take videos.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just a photography camera.
It was photo and video.
Got it.
Mainly, I had it for photos.
So
right. My first photo shoot, that was in 2008, and it was a Canon Rebel XS. And then so that was like my main camera. And so I want to kind of like go into when you realize, like, when did you realize that the lens was the most important thing as far as like controlling the type of quality image that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I learned that in college. I didn't really learn that in high school, because high school, like all the cameras that we had in high school were all camcorders. You can't take the lens off a camcorder.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know anything about lenses really when I was in high school. I was just like, you know, I knew the basics, you know, like f-stop and stuff like that. But again, you can't control f-stop. I mean, you can on some camcorders, but back then you couldn't control the f-stop on camcorders. When did I learn that? It was in college. That's when I really started to learn about lenses and the sensor size and the focal length and the f-stops, and you know, that primes were the way to go when it came to like getting that shot of the field. I learned that in college. What
was the first lens you fell in love with?
Like, 50, the Nifty 50.
Nifty 50?
Nifty 50.
What was the f-stop on it?
50 millimeter 1.8. I use that for everything.
Man. It was Canon as well?
Canon, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first So before I got that nifty 50, I was getting a bunch of like zoom lenses.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I got to get this lens, this lens. So I had an 18 to 55. That's the kit lens.
Right. Yeah.
18 to 55. It was like a f 3.5.
3.5 to like 5.6 or something. Yeah.
like that.
Right.
And then I got the like 55 to like 150 or something like that. Same thing was like f 3.5 to f 6.3 or something like that.
Right.
And those lenses I was like, man, I can't get good photos with this.
Right.
For some reason, like I was looking at all the other images that I seen from like other photographers. I'm like, man, I can't. None of my pictures are coming out good.
Right.
And then I was doing some research and I learned about the prime lens.
Right.
But the reason why I was so hesitant about going with the prime lens because you know it's one focal length.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Right.
So I was like, why would I want to get a lens that's just one focal length?
Right.
But when I got that nifty 50, that totally changed the game for me. My photography quality, the images, everything, like it was night and day.
Yeah,
night and day.
For sure.
And that was like my game changer. And the funny thing about that is that the nifty 50, that 50 millimeter lens, that Canon 50 millimeter lens, that first lens that I got, was about $75, $75 or $100.
Yeah,
it was less than $100.
Yeah, it was like I paid like $100 for mine.
Yeah, and it was the quality of the imagery that I was getting from that lens was like outdoing all of my zoom lenses because I had a bunch of zoom lenses.
Yeah, of course.
And then I found out that I had a nifty 50. When I found out the quality of that nifty 50, I'm like, you know what? This is the lens I'm going to use all the way through.
You want to hear something funny? I never had a kit lens.
Really?
So with the Canon, I just went straight to the 50 millimeter. And I just shot everything with 50. I went up close, went really far. I ran around with the 50 millimeter.
Yeah.
Eventually, I got like another prime. I used to only use primes, like when I was younger, 24, 50, and like, I don't know, 85 or something like that.
Okay.
But now I use zooms because like it's more convenient.
Yeah. So let's talk about your first set of prime lenses. What was those focal length and what did you use them for?
So back then it was the 50 millimeter 1.8, 24 2.8 was a Rokinon.
Okay.
And I think it was an 85 one, or I can't remember the focal length or the f-stop on the 85, but yeah, it was just those three main setups, and I just kind of, I ran around a lot I did a lot of handheld stuff back then. I didn't have a gimbal, and I used to use a glide cam, but the glide cam was like a nightmare because you had to balance it, the stick and stuff like that, and I would run around with it and it would just start drifting to the right, and I never learned how to truly master it. So I did a lot of handheld work. I eventually did end up getting like a cheap gimbal, a Zion Crane, and I just ran around with like the 50 mainly. I shot a lot of stuff with the 50 millimeter. And back then I didn't really know the difference between the 24 and the 50. I just knew that one was wider. I knew the basics, but I didn't really know that much deeper into it. You know what I mean? And I'm still learning about what focal lengths do to the image. Like a 85 or 100 will compress your background. It'll make it smaller. If you want to show everything in the background, you use a 35.
Yeah.
It just depends. But yeah, those were my primes.
Okay.
Those are the
and you were
primes.
mainly doing video. You're doing photos as well.
I always did video. Sorry.
Okay.
I got into photo because I met this girl that was doing like lifestyle stuff. And back in 2018, the whole like tropical kind of vibe was kind of really big. And so I got into photography for my own personal Instagram, taking lifestyle shots. Occasionally I took photos for clients, but I never really felt like I was that good. So I just kind of put it to the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's what's up, man. So you was all prime lenses early on.
Yeah, I didn't have any zoom lenses.
So
I mean, eventually, eventually I did get like the 1835.
Okay.
1.8, which then once I got that, I didn't buy another lens.
Okay.
Never bought another lens, literally.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of stuff I was shooting was just action sports, lifestyle stuff like that. I didn't really get into corporate until like maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay. So 18 to 35, a lot of people that's watching the Zoom, they probably never did video production like as in
Yeah.
depth as us,
hmm
and is probably trying to learn how to use some of their lenses. So, in terms of your 18 to 35 and your prime lenses, do you have any like tips and tricks for
For like people
those
that use
early,
prime lenses?
your early gear setup for?
Yeah. So do I have any like tips for like people that are like prime users primarily?
Just early lens tips. Like, so some of the tips for your zoom lens. You had
hmm
an 18 to 35
hmm
for a while, and then something that you will have for
Okay.
your prime.
Yeah. So I would say if you are, someone that's doing like, you want to get more cinematic content
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing kind of like cinematic interviews or you just want a more cinematic look,
Mm-hmm.
I would say go for the primes. Cheap primes, like a 51.8, 35, 1.8, or, the lower the f-stop, the more expensive it's going to be. So I would say, look for cheap primes and yeah, just try to get the most bang for buck when it comes to buying the lens.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom lenses are great for versatility, but that's also like it just depends what kind of like content you're making. You know what I mean? If you're trying to do content for everything, then yeah, get a zoom. That way you don't have to worry about having that shout the field every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And as I learned, like as I got older and stuff, I realized that like shout the field is not the most important thing in the image. When I was younger, that was the thing. It was like, let me find the lens with the biggest, the fastest lens, 1.8, 1.2, 1.4. And I still feel like, oh man, I want that lens. But you got to ask yourself, like, why do you want that shot at the field? What is the reason that you want to make the background so damn blurry?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to have a motive or a reason. It can't just be like, I just want to make it look cinematic. Like, great. But like, what does that mean? What, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the questions that, you got to ask yourself,
Yeah,
For
no,
sure.
definitely. For me, that 50 mil was a game changer for me. That's when I had the Canon. I started off with Canon. So when I had that 50 mil, it was a game changer. But I wanted to upgrade my gear. So I went from the Canon XS, I sold it to my cousin. And then I got the Canon T2i, Rebel T2i. With that Rebel T2i, I sold a lot of my gear because I was figuring out what lenses to get. And in the Canon brand, they have L lenses. It's the lens, you see that red?
Yep. Right. The red ring.
Red ring around the tip of the lens. That lens is what I learned was really, the optics on those were really, really amazing. And that's when I learned the difference between like the f4 and the f2.8. So for me, I was doing mostly photography. And at that time, I was doing more events. So a lot of events, in the nightclubs and things like that. So I needed as much light I could possibly get. So an f2.8 was almost mandatory. You could get away with an f4, but that means you'll need to blast a lot more light. And while I was in the nightclub or in the bars or at these different locations, sometimes, one, I wouldn't want to blast so much light on my subject. And then two, in some situations, I wouldn't have access to light. So having an f2 would have been so valuable. So my next lens that I ended up getting was the Canon 24 to 70 f2.8 because it was just super versatile. I could cover any event from beginning to end with that 24 to 70. So for me, I always, that was like my favorite lens. It looked so nice. Like the quality of imagery that I got from that lens was so amazing. And the thing, I could basically cover anything. I could do photo shoots, branding photo shoots, lifestyle photo shoots, and I could go to the club and take pictures. But that lens, the optics on that lens was just next level. So for me, what I realized is that investing in the lens, because I had the Canon Rebel, and that was like $500, but that lens was like $1,200. So the lens cost like twice the price of the actual body. And no one, like when I was out there taking pictures, they're like, man, what kind of camera that is? Like, little do they know, it's
Nobody
about the
asks you what
lens.
kind of lens you
Yeah.
have. It's always, what kind of camera do you have? Even today, it still happens. Like, what kind of cameras have? What kind of? It's like, you should ask what kind of lens that is.
Yes.
You know, that's what really, you know, matters. You know, because you put a kit lens on a like an Arri Alexa,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be shit.
Yeah.
You know, but you can take a, you know, a Sony, a regular, I don't know, Sony A7S III, and put like a cinema lens on it, an anamorphic lens, and it's just like, you know, changes the game.
Changes the game
It's
totally.
gonna, it's gonna make it look like a movie.
Yeah.
So the tip is, you know, save your money and buy a good lens.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry too much about the camera specs.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you can shoot 4K at 60 or even whatever 1080, 60, you're fine.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and with video, of course, the specs is a lot different for photos. For me, I was happy with 12 megapixels.
Right.
24 megapixels even now is perfect for me.
Right.
You know? So for me, I do a lot of events, and you know, I may shoot at one event, I might shoot 1,000, 1,500, 3,000 pictures.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be left with so much footage and so much like I got like 2 gigs of pictures. I don't want to have that much footage or like that much space of pictures on my hard drive. So I always prefer to shoot with like the 12 megapixels, the 24 megapixels.
Right.
When they started making those 51 megapixels, I was like, that's not for me. And that's another thing that I feel like it's important for us to kind of like talk about, is, especially when we're talking about gear and buying gear. Is when you're going into thinking about buying what gear, what equipment you want, I would say the very, very first thing to think about is like, what are you going to be using it for?
Yeah, that was like the first thing I asked. Like, it depends like what kind of content you want to make.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first thing you want to ask yourself. Like, what kind of content you want to go into? I mean, is it action sports? Is it, you know, corporate? Is it lifestyle? Is it fashion? And that is going to dictate the gear that you need. You know, whether you need a gimbal, a glide cam, and even though people still use glide cams nowadays, which I don't know why, but they still do. Yeah. And that'll dictate also what kind of lights you need and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, because even with that, so like I'm glad that you went into lights, because I was going to talk about lights as well. For me, knowing that I was going to do a lot of event photography in nightclubs and stuff, I had to get an on-camera flash. So if you're going to be doing birthday parties and you're going to be doing events in nightclubs, or if you even, I don't know if you was doing video and had a light on your camera, because I've seen people.
I never really liked the look of it.
Yeah, I've seen people do that in the clubs where they have that bright light. For me, even when I was doing a little bit of video, I never really liked being in the club and having a big like spotlight. On people.
Yeah, I'm not like that. I don't like that either. Yeah,
like all of that attention and stuff like that. I really like the idea of like being kind of incognito in the back, just stealth. You know, Spider-Man, Peter Parker out
fly
here,
on the wall type thing.
Yeah, that was always my style, and so that's why the on-camera flash was like perfect for me.
Right.
So having a good on-camera flash with a diffuser.
Right. I also took photos in nightclub. By the way. Yeah, I did.
Oh man, how was that experience for you?
It was okay. I didn't have a flash. I didn't have an on-camera flash. Or sorry, I didn't have an external flash. I used my on-camera flash.
Okay.
And it was okay. I got the job done.
Okay.
But I'm sure they weren't anywhere as near as good as yours. But hey, I did the job. Yeah. You know, I got it done.
Yeah. Nightclubs, and then also like shooting in situations like in. This is how I really learned how to master photography. And I always tell people, it was in the nightclub and in the church. Because when you're shooting inside of a church, right? When you're taking pictures inside of a church, let me say that. When you're taking images inside of a church, right? The lighting is so dim.
Yeah.
It's really, really low light, you know?
Right.
And for me, when I was taking images of like praise and worship and people in their vibe, I didn't want to use a flash because I wanted to be a fly on the wall, so I could capture people in their essence without them noticing me.
Right.
I could capture them actually doing what they're doing. I capture the real, authentic, candid moments. Like I love candid moments.
Right.
So when you shooting inside of those, when you're taking pictures inside of the church, it's like it's very low light, and then a lot of those churches had like tints on the windows, so you get that yellow.
Oh, you get those colors.
Purple. So you had to really know how to white balance.
Yeah. That sounds kind of tough, actually.
Yeah. So just learning how to take a good picture in church, I basically could take pictures anywhere.
Really? Okay.
And then the other side was the nightclub, right? Taking pictures in a party,
in a dark environment,
in a dark environment where it's totally pitch dark,
right?
And you got to get a great image, right? So it's like,
and a lot of times you only got one shot,
You only got one shot.
Yeah.
And so it's like getting a good image in those two scenarios kind of trained me to be able to take pictures in any scenario. Right. Everything else was basically easy for me after that.
Yeah. I mean, if you compare like filming or taking photos in a nightclub versus like a corporate event, I mean, you can't. That's like night and day. It's so much easier to just do corporate, Of course, there's like different strategies, but like the basics, like of, getting someone together and framing it right and, and all that stuff and taking the photo, like it's really not that difficult compared to like a nightclub where you can't see anything and you have to like kind of figure it out. All right, are they standing here? Okay, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, we talking about gear today, but one of the main things also when we thinking about gear and what kind of events you're going to be doing, the gear is only one aspect to it. Like especially when you're out there taking pictures, you got to think about the type of events you want to capture.
Right.
So, let's say for instance, when I started getting into weddings, that's when I realized I needed a 70-200 lens.
Right.
So I had to get like a longer lens.
Yeah, of course.
Because I didn't want to be in the middle of the aisle taking pictures. No, I had to sit to the back of the church and get those images.
Yeah.
And that 70-200 lens was a game changer for me.
Oh, for sure.
That f2.8 L lens, 70-200. That was a Canon T2i, and then I paired it with a Canon. It was a 1D.
1DX.
1DX. Not the 1DX. I had a 1D Mark III.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Big boy.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when that 1DX Mark III or whatever it came out, it was like everybody had it.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah. It's a big camera though.
It's really big. So a lot of people had that one in the 5D.
Yeah.
So the difference between like the 5D and the 1D, the main thing was like 1D was made for photographers, like sport photographers, wedding photographers. So it was shooting like 12 frames per second, which is what you need when you have a wedding going on and people are moving really fast.
Yeah.
You need all those frames in order to capture them. But then the 5D, it was a close medium of, that was actually one of the first cameras that really dominated both the video and the photography realm.
Right.
Because on the photography side, I think it was 6 frames or 7 frames per second. And then the video quality on that 5D.
Yeah, it was fire.
It was
nice.
It was a game changer.
Yeah. It was like the best hybrid that ever came out at the time.
At the time.
Yeah.
At the time. So so you had the Canon T2i Rebel. What was it?
I want to say it was a T3i.
T3i?
I don't think I ever had the T2i. I think I had the T3i.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so you had that and you had 3 prime lenses.
Yeah.
And then what was your next gear setup?
So I think I eventually ended up getting the T4i.
Okay.
And then I used
Why?
What's that?
I mean, you already had a T3i. Why would you go get the T4i?
So the T3i actually broke because I took it to this private island. I went camping with my friends. We went to a private island, and I had it in a suitcase, briefcase, and the salt water got to it. It broke my drone and my camera, and I had to get a new camera. So at the time, T4i.
Okay.
So I had that for a little bit, and then the next.
Any differences before?
Not really. Same thing. Okay. It was like the same.
What about did the LCD in the back pop out more? Or was it the exact same?
I think it was pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't any really much differences that I can remember off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
But the next big upgrade was the Canon 80D. I went from the T4i to the Canon 80D.
Okay.
That was the biggest jump that I made. And that was, I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago or something, 5 years ago. or something
Yeah.
like that. That's when I got the 80D, and I used the 80D for a while. And I used the 18-35 with the 80D, and
You say you use what camera?
I
with
use
that?
with a Canon 80D.
Yeah, 80D.
I used the 18-35.
18 to 35.
18-35 1.8.
Okay. 1.8. Okay.
That was the main lenses that I used. And it was a lot of action stuff that I was doing.
Okay.
It wasn't really corporate. I didn't really get into corporate.
So
like,
you was up close then. If you had an 18
always
to 35, you was like right
yeah,
here.
yeah. I mean, I had the 50,
Yeah.
1.8. But I think I ended up getting rid of the prime, the 85 or something like that. I can't remember. But I was mainly 18-35 and the 50 1.8.
Okay.
And I was just moving a lot.
Okay, so I want you to talk a little bit about that as well, because there are different styles of photographers. So one is those photographers that like those longer lenses and sit in the back of the room and get those video shots or those photos.
Right.
If you had an 18 to 35,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you got rid of your 85,
Yeah.
you like to be in the mix.
Yeah.
Can you talk to a little bit about why you went with like a shot that's 18 to 35 is a little bit wider, where you have to get closer to the subject, compared to going with a lens that you could be further away but zoom in on the subject?
Yeah. I mean, that was the lens that I had at the time, and I just figured I didn't really know any better. But a lot of the stuff I was filming was lifestyle and action, because that was like the realm that I wanted to get into. And with that action stuff, like, yeah, you want to be up close. You don't want to be at a distance, you know. And because it's just easier to move with the action.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, if you're doing like a football, like someone you're shooting football, yeah, you need a telephoto. But if you're doing something that's like scripted, like I shot like a wake surfing video, and you know, the girl was like grabbing the board and doing this, and she was like throwing it in the water, and you know, with the camera, I'm going with the movement. You know, if you're 10 feet away, like that's how you're gonna time that. You know what I mean? So I was up close, you know, moving with her as she's kind of doing her action. But that was what I did, and that was what I, you know, kind of like, I felt like that was like I made it work with what I had. You know, that was my technique, because I didn't really have any telephoto lenses. I just never bought them. They were expensive, and I was like, I can make it work, you know. But with the 50, I shot weddings with the 50, and I would just be like so up close. I would just be up there. It's just like mad close.
Yeah,
you know
you'd be part of the wedding, basically.
Exactly. I was in it. I was in the mix.
Almost giving the vows. Like.
Yeah, exactly. I was dropping off the rings.
Oh man.
I was in there, and
as a photographer, I was like, get out my shot.
Yeah, for sure. It happened a lot. Definitely. But no, I honestly, like, I never really been big on gear. I never really been like, oh, I got to get this and that. And like, if I ever bought gear, it was because out of necessity, because of a convenience factor. Like, I got the Sony FX3 because I needed autofocus. I needed to shoot in low light. I needed stable shots. I needed, you know, good color grading, and I needed better lenses, you know. And for a while, I just went with the GH5 because I was like, I can make it work. I can make it work. And I did make it work. I made it work for a very long time. But I mean, if you go like a couple years without buying gear and, you know, you got the money, like, why not invest? You know, why not upgrade? So,
I mean, a lot of people may not know, it's not in the production world. So, just to kind of break down what you were saying with the GH5.
Yeah.
So the GH5 is a Lumix GH5. That's a Panasonic brand.
Yep.
And it's a great quality camera. One of the things that I did notice about using the Lumix, because I had a Lumix, I had a GH1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I had a GH1.
Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed about the GH1 is that they had no record limit. So you can record for hours.
Oh, really? I didn't even. Okay, hours. So even back then,
yeah,
nice.
You can record for however long you want.
Yeah.
And then some of the images that I seen from the GH brand and the Lumix brand was just really great. Like,
Yeah, and the thing is, the GH5, all the GH1s, I assume, but the quality you get with the price that you pay is like, it's unmatched.
Yeah.
And that's why I got it. It was like, no camera can shoot 4K 60 for under $1,000.
Yeah.
It was like impossible to find. It was the only camera that could do it. And I've always been kind of like, frugal with like spending money on gear, because I know just as much as you know that gear is not the most important thing. Even though that's what we're talking about today, it's not the most important thing. There's other elements. It's very important, but it's not the end all be all. Like, there's many YouTube videos of like, they give a professional a beginner camera, a cheap camera with a kit lens, and they give a beginner, a noob, with a cinema camera, and the pro always wins. Why do you think that is?
I think that's because you got to understand composition,
right,
and how to frame your shots and the story that you're trying to tell with each shot. You have to have intention with each shots. With a beginner, he's just filming. He just, the composition is all crazy. The lenses, you're not even thinking about, okay, how I'm going to use this images in the final edit.
Right.
So when you're a pro, you're looking at, okay, I'm gonna get close-ups on his hands.
Right.
I'm gonna get close-up of him doing, like, you're thinking about different, how you're gonna frame each shot. You're thinking about how you're gonna tell the story with these shots. You're thinking about how the shot is gonna make the viewer feel, when they're viewing it.
Right.
A newbie, you have a big piece of equipment that you don't know how to properly use. So that's a big aspect of it as well. It's not always getting the newest gear. It's about using the gear that you understand how to use very quickly. Like, I've seen a photographer using a Canon FD Mark III. A Mark III now. 5D Mark III. Canon 5D Mark III.
That's an old one.
And it's 2024.
Yeah.
And he was in there just working, doing his thing. And it's like, you don't have to get the newest RX, mirrorless cameras, or R6, or, to take great pictures. Like, you can still use a Canon 5D Mark III and get great result if you know what you're doing, if you know how to use the light. So lighting is a big part of it. Composition is a big part of it. And just having the intentions of knowing, like, how to having clear intention on each shot.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you shouldn't upgrade unless you are like, feeling that you can't get something done with the gear that you have. Like, I had a GH5. GH5 has terrible autofocus. I've never used autofocus on GH5. Always manual. For 5 years, I used manual focus, and I got really good with it. But there are certain things that I cannot do with the GH5. I can't do. Well, okay, I'm gonna take that back. You can do it. It's just very difficult. A walking shot with someone walking at a shallow depth of field at a 1.8, for example, and you're tracking back on them. I've done it, but it takes many tries. Sony FX3 autofocus, one shot, you're done. You got it. And so when I realized that, I was like, yeah, like, I'm limiting myself by not upgrading, by not saving time, by, not having to do 10 shots because, the focus was shallow, or the focus was too soft, or whatever. Say with the GH5, I'm in a dark room and I crank my ISO, then my footage is all grainy. And I gotta go fix it in post-production because I gotta put the plug-in to get rid of the grain. That's more time spent. That's more hassle, more money spent on the plug-in. FX3, dual native ISO, 2800 or 12,800. You're good, no problem.
Good to go.
No problem.
So, I mean, there is a thing that comes with new gear. You have to learn that new gear.
Yeah,
so
I had to learn
that
it.
takes time too. So was it? But I mean, once you learn it, you don't have to spend time doing that no more.
No, but it takes time to learn.
Yeah.
I'm still learning about the FX3.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to turn the volume up on the headphone today. You know what I mean? I went to the menu, I figured it out, but I didn't know where it was exactly.
Yeah. So that's a process of like when you get new gear, is learning your gear. So like that's one thing. When I get a piece of a camera, I know what I'm gonna be using it for. I don't want people to get lost on YouTube watching all these other people talking about, oh, you could use this. You got focus on the person eye and move here. Like, what are you using it for? And capture the image for what you're trying to get. If you need the person to get in focus, set up your camera so you can get the person in focus as quick as you can without having to think about it. Because the last thing you want to do when you're on a set or when you're getting paid to do something is to be sitting there messing around with trying to figure out how to use your camera.
Oh, of course.
That's like the most pressure.
Right.
That's going to throw off your whole vibe because now you're over here thinking about, oh, damn, I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to use this. Where is it?
Right.
You know? But like when you have your gear and you know how to throw it into focus, you know how to make it do what you want it to do.
Right.
Without having to think about it. That's a game changer, you know? So that's why I always tell people, hey, I know you're on YouTube. You're trying to learn how to do this. You're trying to learn how to do that. Learn how to get your camera or learn how to just use your camera at a base level.
Right.
You know, it's so much, oh, you could Wi-Fi this or don't worry
Not
about
even just
all
cameras, like lights and microphones.
Yeah.
I was on a shoot and I had the DJI mic and it was blinking blue and I didn't know why. I had just bought the DJI. I didn't know I didn't know all the features of it. And luckily I had a second to Google it and just figure out like what the hell does blue light, and it was just Bluetooth, and I figured out how to turn it off, but it took some time, and if I was under pressure, like I would have been screwed, you know what I mean? Like, and that does happen sometimes where talent's ready to go and you're kind of like fumbling with your equipment, like that doesn't look professional.
Yeah.
You know?
No, definitely. So I want to go into, because we're going to wrap this thing up now, and I want to finish it up with giving some tips on for someone that's because we not only have creative professionals, but we got business owners that want to, probably do their own setup at home, or, want to capture images on their own as well. And they're like, hey, I don't want to call you every time to do these videos or the photos, right?
Right.
What's a good setup that I could start off with? And I want you to give them a good setup if they had, let's say $2,000. They had, hey, I have $2,000. I want to get a nice camera setup that I could start doing some nice videos and photos with. What would be like your best advice?
What is this person doing?
This person, well, he's a business person.
Okay.
And he want to be able to take good photos when they're traveling.
Okay, so they need a hybrid.
Of their,
would you say
a hybrid?
Okay.
Something that they could do photos for, kind of like what you was doing with the home family stuff.
I gotcha. Okay.
Family photos and things like that.
All right.
And videos, or like even if they're at their home office, they want to do.
What's their budget?
$2,000.
$2,000. Okay, maybe I would say the Canon 80D. I mean, I would recommend that because I have experience with it. It's a hybrid. Takes good photos. Takes good video. Doesn't shoot 4K, but if you're doing that kind of stuff, then I don't think you need 4K. And the lens that I would get is the 18-35. And yeah, you can vlog with that. It has autofocus. It actually has good autofocus. So if you ever want to like shoot your own content at home, you flip out the screen, turn on autofocus, get your lights set up, and just record. Yeah, and it would probably, the total probably cost you under $2,000, I think.
Under $2,000? Okay.
I think so. I think the 18-35.
Would you advise them to get like lights, tripods, like that's added?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, but that's going to be more than $2,000 though. Yeah. I think the Canon 80D. I don't know how much it costs right now, but I think it's good. Like that combination would probably run you like $1,500. So let's say if you had an extra $500.
And this is for somebody that don't know anything about cameras. Somebody that's like he's a lawyer. He's doing something else. Yeah. That setup would be so you'll go Canon. For me, I'll go Sony.
Sony, yeah. The reason why I said Canon is because I'm familiar with that price range,
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what would you say for Sony?
Sony, if it's like basically like a lawyer, somebody that's like just want to do something for fun for traveling, I would go ZV-1.
ZV-1, okay.
Yeah, I don't want them to get a camera that's like a A7 III because they have to know a little bit of camera, like a little bit of photography,
right,
to get an A7 III to get the most out of it.
right.
Now, so let's do one for somebody that's a total novice and one for like,
Yeah, if somebody's a total beginner,
yeah,
I would go with that.
Because I would go.
But that's that's like $500 though, isn't it? Or is
like
it more?
600,
600.
like 600,
Okay.
700 bucks.
So what would you do with the rest of the budget?
The rest of the budget, I get a light.
Okay.
I get like a DJI mic.
Right.
Right. I get a DJI mic, I get a light, and I get a tripod.
Gotcha.
And that'd be it.
I think the most important thing is like figuring out what this person is doing, because like if that person wants to do YouTube content, I wouldn't recommend them that gear. I would say go with the Canon 80D, just because they can get that shot at the field. It looks more professional and stuff like that. That camera is good for webcam, vlogging, family trip, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what. And then the other thing is like you can argue and say that the iPhone 15, 16, 4K, looks almost as good as that camera. Or no? Well, what do you think?
I mean,
do you think that camera trumps an iPhone 16 or 15, 4K?
So it's all about use as well. So I wouldn't necessarily. I still use iPhones. iPhones is good in general, but camera wise, if I was like to tell somebody to get a camera, if they want to start, podcasting, something at home, something easy and quick that they could do, I'm gonna go with a Sony ZV-1 or ZV-10 because it's just easy.
The ZV-10, you can change the lens out, right?
Well, I think the ZV-1. So now that adds more to the price. So I'll go with a ZV-1 because then it's yeah, I wouldn't go with a lens for like if they only have like $2,000 and they want to do a beginning setup. Now, if it's like someone that's a photographer and they have $2,000, I would go with like how you said, a Canon 80. Like if you're a photographer and you want to start off, I would actually go with an A7 III,
right?
Or a Nikon. What's my Nikon I usually start off with? A D700. I go with a Nikon D700
for a photographer.
For a photographer.
Gotcha. Yeah, it just depends. Like who are we talking to? You know what I mean? Is it like a diehard filmmaker? If it is, GH5. You know what I mean?
So for a filmmaker, somebody that's like a new, somebody that's coming into the game as a filmmaker that want to be able to get something that's going to be able to like, he could compete with the other guys. Yeah. And he has a $3,000 budget, and he needs a good camera, good lens to be able.
$3,000 budget?
$3,000.
I might go with something else then.
Okay. And what would be
just camera gear?
Just camera gear.
Just camera gear.
Video. He could buy all the rest of the stuff later.
Sony FX30. Sony FX30 is $1,800. Slap a lens on.
What lens would you?
24-70, like the one that I have, Sigma. That's another.
So that's 3,000.
That's 3,000 right there. There you go. That's all you need right there. Yeah.
Your money is gone. One camera, one lens.
Well, actually,
money is gone.
I don't know if they make the 24-70 for the FX30, but get something in that realm. Yeah. Again, I'm still a new Sony user. I'm not super familiar with everything Sony related, but lens wise. But yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah,
I like FX30s.
Yeah, they're good. They're a great camera.
I like FX30s, and it's affordable. It's like
right. I was gonna get it, but I was like, nah. I need that dual native ISO.
Big dog.
I needed it.
Big dog
for sure, and it paid off for sure.
You said dual native ISO. Oh yes. The
stuff that I shot.
Dual native ISO. So the thing about the native ISO, which is what you're gonna learn about, the FX30 only have one native. Do you remember the native ISO for FX30?
Probably 800 or something.
800, okay.
I would have to assume.
And then the FX3, it's what's the two?
12,800.
12,800.
So you can shoot at night. You can shoot at night. I've been wanting to like take the camera out to like an old vintage like Miami movie theater and just shoot like a cool scene out there.
Yeah.
Like even if like after it rains or something like that. Yeah, with like a little tube light or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, something creative.
Yeah. So those are some of the things to keep in mind as well. Are you going to be shooting in good lighting, or are you going to be shooting in? You want to be creative and shoot at night and do all those type of things.
Right.
And if you're going to be in studio too, like you could get the camera don't really matter because you're going to have the lights to kind of brighten up the image. You don't have to be shooting at you can shoot at f9 in the studio and get a well lit.
I do want to say one thing. Yeah. If I could go back, and I'll ask you, I guess I'll ask you this too, but if I could go back in time to, let's just say 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I started to like take this serious. I mean, I started 6 years ago, but 3 or 4 years ago, that's when I was like, all right, let's start investing into gear. If I could go back 3 years ago, and when I was investing into gear, I would have bought the light that I bought now, which is the Amaron 200X. And the tip is to, buy your camera and all that, but the next thing you want to buy after that is a big light, a powerful light. I had this panel light for the longest time, and I shot so much stuff with it, and it's like, it's not good. Like none of that stuff looks good. But I was too scared to invest. I was like, nah, I don't need it. I can make do with it. And nah, bro, if I could go back, like that's what I would do. What if you could go back, what's one piece of gear that you would have bought back then?
That's great advice. Lighting is important. So I'm going to speak from a photography standpoint, and it probably is useful in the sense of video as well. Is yes, a light, but for me, that changed the game for photography for me, the modifier. So the light modifiers. Having a wide light modifier. So I had a 4 feet by 4 feet light modifier, which made the light very soft when I was taking those images and I was doing off-camera lighting. I got into off-camera lighting.
What's a modifier?
Later on. So the light modifier it could be a rectangular one that
it's a reflector. Is it a reflector?
Not a reflector. The light, the structure that you put in front of the light.
I gotcha. Okay.
So like how we got the lamp here.
Right. Okay.
What do you call that?
Softbox?
Softbox? Yeah. So softbox, I call it a light modifier.
Okay.
Softbox is rectangular softboxes.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like a softbox.
You got technical with me, threw me off. Yeah. I thought it was something else. Okay.
Yeah, light modifier. So I got the octagon light modifier. So the octagon is like almost like a circle.
So you're talking about having different light modifiers.
Yeah.
Okay.
For different types of setup. But the octagon wide, the wider the modifier is, the softer the light is, because it kind of covers more of the subject.
Right.
And having a light modifier on when I was taking photos and like branding photos and things like that, headshots, things like that, like it changed the whole game for me. So understanding lighting, and like how you said, lighting is just so important, getting the lighting gear, because I had a light panel as well. But like once I got I actually got the modifier first. Yeah, I got the modifier first, and then I got the lights.
Nice.
Yeah, because I was using off camera. I could put a flash inside of the modifier.
Right.
And still use that. And that was like a game changer for me. Light modifiers. Yeah, using different types of light modifiers. So lighting is just as important as the camera that you have. So if you're thinking about getting your camera gear, I would say get the lens first.
Right.
Get the quality lens for the type of production you're going to be doing the most.
Yep.
So I will call it your get money lens. So for me, my get money lens is a 24 to 70.
Right.
Or a 28 to 75.
Right.
That's going to be the first lens that I get, because I could get money with it right away.
Yep.
Unless you're not unless you're already well off, you're not trying to get paid doing this.
Right.
You can get all the prime lenses you want, but for me, the get money lens is going to be that 28 to 75.
Right.
Because I could basically cover all the ground, all the events and things that I need. And then my second lens, of course, is going to be that 50 nifty, 50 millimeter, and I'm good for there. The camera itself, it doesn't matter to me. I can use any camera.
Right. It's how you use it.
Yeah, I can use any camera.
That's how
so
you use it, man.
It's how you use it. It's not
Yeah.
the camera, it's how you use it. So
Exactly.
I don't even have my phone on me, so I don't know if anybody was asking any questions, but we on here live, Choose to Create Live. We do this every third Wednesday of the month. It's just a way that we kind of like, talk about production.
Mm-hmm.
Today we wanted to focus more on production. Next week we'll be focused more on operations. So every third Wednesday we'll cover the different parts of it. So last month we did business development. This month we focusing on production. Next month is going to be operations, and we're going to keep that going and having that conversations with different creatives, also with different business owners and entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
just so we can get, connect that bridge between entrepreneurs and videographers. So next week I'm probably going to bring on an entrepreneur just to kind of get their mindsets of like, okay, what do they think of when they think of, okay, I need a video and I only have $500.
Right.
And so they could understand our mindset with like, oh my goodness, $500.
Right.
You can't do much with that because we
Right.
have to buy this gear, we have to have this
Right.
person, we have to pay that person. It's like, we're not going to be getting paid from this job if we're doing it at $500.
Of course.
But without having that conversation and being able to bridge that gap between, entrepreneurs and videographers or the people that hire us for these different things,
Mm-hmm.
and never really get there. So
Right.
I do really appreciate everyone being on for this Choose to Create. We are live.